Okay, so it's midnight and I look like I just got up because a little while ago I just got up. And I'll tell you about that. Anyway, so I'm in this house right now and I have really free reign. I've got it basically to myself. So let's kind of go through the day. I got up and they had to keep changing plans, and so they apologized because they needed me to do data entry. So we went to a different camp and we were in this container, um, a truck container. That was our office, and they had a window so that people could open it up and give us their urine or their extra medicines or whatever. There were 3 stations for 3 docs, but that would include the doctor, the translator, and then the family members. There was an area with a mattress on the floor for people who fainted, and there were lots of people who fainted. And then there was my table with the computer for data entry. And all of this in a place that was maybe 2/3 the length of my living room. Maybe that big, but probably a lot smaller. And it was very loud, very chaotic. I'm doing data entry, and so that means that I have the spreadsheet, and I have to put down what tenth they're in, age brackets that are used for research by the United Nations. Um, each country has different specified diagnoses that they look at to track, and so in ours it would be diarrhea with blood, diarrhea without blood, suspected pneumonia, upper respiratory infection, different from each country. Next column would be diagnosis, which are just a ton of them. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong, and treatment, and then final column would be follow-up. So I'm trying to do all that. The docs are seeing people while people are coming in and fainting, and at the same time, these are not kind of quiet, stay in a queue people. These are folks who are very loud, banging on the window, trying to get our attention, trying to push past the guard to get into the room, pointing their fingers at us, yelling at us, throwing curses at us, hitting the walls with their fists. And so there are times where I'm thinking, is this going to escalate worse? And it never did. But all that's going on, well, people are trying to tell their stories, the translators are trying to translate, the doctors are trying to figure out what it is, what to do, what to rule out, what other doctors have they seen, and I'm trying to do the data processing. So it was a long time in a short period of time. It's a short period of time because this is Ramadan. It's 110 outside. People are waiting outside in the sun with no shade. And so people can't wait real long. And so the clinic is over by noon because they still have to go the rest of the day until sunset to break their fast. Now, understand these are people who were in cities and villages that were under siege, had limited food and water. They've lost so much weight. Folks who still think they're diabetic are no longer diabetic. We saw a baby who everybody was cooing and going crazy over, and I didn't understand it. It was the baby that you might have read about a couple of weeks ago who had gone for a number of months on rice water and was just a bag of bones. And now this kid's got fat on it, and it's following your fingers and smiling and cooing, and the mother's just radiant, and so that was really cool. Anyway, so you've got folks who probably should not be fasting because their bodies can't handle it, and they certainly should be taking in some water throughout the day, but they're doing their best not to. And so between being exhausted, the oppressive heat, the high expectations, the low frustration tolerance, it got intense at times. Anyway, so we saw about 64 patients between 10 and 1 o'clock. I walked over to the hospital that Advent's building, and the walls are up, the interior walls are up, the roof is up, the floor's in, and they're waiting for the x-rays and the other technologies to show up, and they're hoping to open the hospital, the inpatient surgical hospital, next week. There'll be containers around it that will be for psychosocial and other services as well, so there's more privacy. So that'll make a big difference. That'll be really good. driving back, we drove through more towns that had been demolished and through checkpoints and had to show our passports to the soldiers. And the stories that we're hearing about being in a city that controlled by Daesh or ISIS for 3 years are becoming very, very real. Just horrible, horrible, can't believe kind of stories. So we got back, and I was exhausted because I'm not sleeping. I'm waking up at 1:30 in the morning thinking it's 3 and go back to bed, and it's 3 and go back to bed, and it's 3:30, and finally I just get up. And so I was determined to stay awake all day so that I could try to kick my sleep pattern into gear. And right around dinner time, I laid down, and that was it. I crashed. And so I missed dinner, and then all of a sudden I heard all these voices around 10:30. And it turns out that there's a major outbreak of GI problems. So there's kind of a run on services at one of the camps, and it's big. It's big, like the national news is out there covering it right now. And so it was all hands on deck, and so all the folks were getting all their equipment and the transportation and the fluids and everything, the computers, everything else that they needed to get back out to the camp. I offered to do data entry because I know how to do that, but they didn't need that. One doc and 2 other people did stay back because they need to open the clinic tomorrow morning, because no matter how bad it is tonight, there's still going to be people who are sick for all the different reasons tomorrow. I mentioned that there were lots of fainters, people who would just kind of come in and collapse and then lay there and open one eye to see if we're watching. They didn't have bruises, they weren't seizing, they were just basically saying, I need to be seen right now. We also had folks who had ear infections and throat infections and pneumonia, but we had one guy who was very stoic, quiet. He had a broken nose, and the doc had to take and just reset it and make sure there was no blood clots, and made me really happy that I'm not medical. Anyway, so they're going to need a clinic tomorrow because there's always sick people there. And so I've got the building to myself. And so I have the busy work of trying to figure out what am I going to feed these people, because we take turns cooking here. It's mainly vegetarian. These people are from all over the world, so the food is just so good. And so I'm going to use this time going through all the supplies and seeing what we got to see what I can make. And then I'll be doing prep for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be going to one of the camps and doing tent visits. There are a number of people who are scheduled to see me. I have a translator. It's a woman translator, because why else would they allow a guy into their tent? And looking forward to that, because they're actually looking forward to talking to me. So that'll be pretty good. In a place where there's a real stigma to mental health, that's really helpful. Our folks were apologetic that I was doing data entry. Their thing was, you got this doctorate, you shouldn't be doing data entry. And I had to explain that in disaster mental health, the mental health folks oftentimes do physical labor. They're unloading trucks, they're helping with cleanup, they're distributing food, because while you're doing these activities, it allows you to assess in a natural environment either the workers who you're working with or the clients, and it allows them to let their defenses down so they can talk about their anxieties. And so doing data entry and watching everybody and making comments to me felt very appropriate. Though I'm looking forward to doing more traditional stuff tomorrow, and also involved in program planning. So that's it. It was a busy day. It's really, really hot. The stories are really sad, but the children are really cute. Walking through the tents, the monotony, just the same colors over and over, the lack of green, the lack of anything wet, the lack of any shade. I just can't imagine living like that. At the same time, I can't imagine how bad it had to be that you'd be grateful for it, because at least no one's shooting at you. There are no snipers, there are no bombs, it's no torture. So that's it. I'm going to get back to work, but I thought I'd just kind of make a little note, say hi to you all. You saw from the pictures I got to see a whole bunch of sheep to stop the traffic. That was kind of cool, kind of a moment in place type moment. Missing family very much, and talk to you later. Take care. Bye.